Welcome to Same Scenario. This is your host, Cartoon Guy. Welcome. I'm glad to have you here to go over another scenario. And today we're going to be tackling the scenario that I like to call the stranded scenario. And we've got several movies that qualify for this scenario, and we'll be going over them here in this video for you folks today. And just the basic outline of the scenario, even though it has several varieties, it does have the same basic idea, and that is a person or a group of people that find themselves isolated in a location, and this experience of isolation affects them profoundly, often with life or death consequences. There are basically three strains when it comes down to the reasoning behind the isolation. The first one is just this plain old realistic scenario that we can imagine could really happen in real life somehow. Then the next reason why for the isolation is fantastic or supernatural. And finally, the unexplained. All right. First two movies I want to go over with you guys today. The first one is The Shining, and that movie is a horror movie, so kids, wait till you're grown up to watch that one. But it does feature a family that goes and isolates themselves in a hotel that's vacant, and they are the caretakers of the hotel while it is not open. And things happen. The isolation affects the family, especially the father, and a lot of interesting things happen in that movie, scary and bad things. The other movie is called Shot Corridor. It's a older movie, and it involves somebody that is a journalist, and they decide to go to a mental hospital to do a story and to find a murderer that is in the hospital, and he wants to do this story on it. So he pretends to be mentally ill so he can get in the hospital as a patient, and bad things happen to him during the course of the movie. So both of these are realistic scenarios for the reason why these people isolate and the consequences that take place afterwards are based on that. The hotel, there's a picture of the hotel, is called the Overlook Hotel, and that is where this family of three is isolated all by themselves and taking care of this hotel. The other movie, Shot Corridor, happens in a mental institution, and here's a picture of a mental institution that where the journalist in the movie, he goes into a mental institution such as this one and pretends to be mentally ill. So very similar to what happens in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, except for different reasons. And there's two great scenes in these movies that I think are kind of share a similar vision. They're very similar visually, especially. And this is the scene, the elevator scene in The Shining, where you have this big flooding of the hallway from the elevator, and it's blood, so it's really not for kids again, but it does represent the hotel as haunted, and also as the psychological aspect of this on the child that has this ability to see things, and then the father who is actually seeing things as well, presumably because he's losing his mind, while his son is seeing things because he has second sight. So always water, flooding, imagery is representative of the unconscious and mental, psychological overwhelm scenarios. So that's there. And then in Shark Corridor, we have a similar scene, except it takes place in the hospital hallway. And what we have happen there is rain. So the journalist starts to hallucinate that the hallway is flooding with rain and thunder right there inside of the hallway of the hospital. So very dramatic scene. It just represents that this character psychologically has become overwhelmed with the pressure of the isolation, and this represents his mental state, right? He's just completely losing it. And it's a great scene. The special effects are excellent for an old movie like this. I mean, it just looks super realistic and super cool, and I really love that. And so just compare these imagery from both of these films, and they both represent the mental chaos, kind of hallucinated out, so that we can see visually the effects of what's going on in the character's mind, right? So great movies that really use that subject realistically. There's one more movie I'll give kind of an honorable mention. It's a good movie in its own right. It's called The Truman Show, and this is about a man that is part of a reality TV show that's very popular in the world, but he doesn't know. He's kept isolated from the knowledge that he is actually a star of this show. That is his life that's being manipulated, and he doesn't realize it at all. He just thinks that's his real normal life, and it's all just a show. So that is also a realistic premise. It's a little bit hard to imagine it really take place, but it conceivably could happen, right? We're going to go on to the more fantastical aspect of the stranded scenario, and I'm going to start with an old story from the Twilight Zone, an episode called It's a Good Life. It's from a short story, and I just love this story, and I think it's kind of like the grandpapa. As far as I know, I mean, there might be older ones. I mean, Shark Corridor itself is an older movie, but this kind of grandpapa of, taking a whole town and isolating it in a way that it's just completely alone in the world. And I'm going to go ahead and redraw that. It's going to show us Rod Serling at the introduction. And what it is this kid, he has the mental power and capability of basically just like a small god, and he's able to transform the town so that it's off of the map and has to live on its own. A modern version of this is on Netflix called The Society. It also goes ahead and so there is Rod Serling with the map, and that's Peaksville, is that little circle, that little white circle. That's the town of Peaksville. It's been taken off the map, and it's by itself somewhere, surrounded by nothingness and just isolated, and people there are at the mercy of this kid with godlike powers. So take a look at that. That also uses that scenario of isolation very, very well. Going back to The Society, new next Netflix episodes, you can see also the same dynamic. You've got a whole town that has been kind of taken out of the world, so to speak, in a way. There's no way to get out of the town. The roads that used to lead out to other cities are now just lead out to a forest, in all directions. And only young people are there from a high school class and all the parents are gone. And so there's a couple hundred kids, high school age kids, are left alone in this town and they got to fend for themselves. Okay, and the explanation for this, it seems, supernatural, but really we don't know. I haven't been informed yet. I haven't seen the whole show, so I don't know. They bring up a lot of different reasons, but they're still kind of not sure. Where I'm at in the show, they still have not revealed what has happened. I don't know if they ever will, because that is another possibility. The Matrix is another movie that uses this isolation, and the reason being that the machines have taken over and have isolated humanity into this Matrix program. It's just computer reality and taken over the world. And then you guys know the story. There's just a few people that escape that system and they try to battle against the machines. There's an older Twilight Zone episode that deals with this called The Monsters on Maple Street. It's a street in a town, and there's aliens that manipulate the street lights and the electricity. And what happens is the neighbors get paranoid with one another. They're isolated there on that street, and here are the aliens looking on and saying, "Oh, we've been able to, get them to fight against each other just by playing with the electricity and the machinery a little bit." So just upsetting the normal routine of life can cause people to act in very strange and aggressive ways. The Matrix has, blown up this scenario, and so we got the machines. They also kind of look like aliens to me, and they're controlling humanity. So it's all, the theme of manipulation is big here. And the other alternative, of course, is when there's no real explanation for the isolation. And I love this movie. It's a great movie. It's called The Exterminating Angel. It's in Spanish, but you can get it with English subtitles or probably even voiceover if you look for it. And this is a great story. What happens in this story is never explained, but the basic setup is that this dinner party, after they eat, go to the music room, to the piano room, which is a big, huge room in a mansion, and all these people are there, and they are having a great time. And for some reason, none of them decide to leave the room. I mean, at one point, a few of them try, but then they decide they're not going to go. And what happens is they just stay overnight there, and then suddenly there's a realization that they can't leave that room. There's no physical thing keeping them from leaving the room, and it just, they can't do it. For some reason, that's not really explained. They just can't leave that room, no matter what. And the people outside can't even get into the mansion either. They have kind of the same issues. It's all very mysterious. And I do encourage you to watch it. It's a great movie. We see how people in these drastic situations react. And it's often not pretty, obviously. But the animals in the movie have no problem walking all over wherever they want to. But the humans, there's some mysterious situation keeping them from being able to leave that room. And so go take a look at The Exterminating Angel. I'm sure you're going to enjoy that movie. Again, this theme is heavy in the new series, The Society, which is on Netflix. I do encourage you to take a look at that. I think it's a good movie as well. And there's common themes that are involved with all these films and this scenario specifically. What it is, it shows life concentrated, right? So when you put people in this isolated situation, it's kind of like, concentrated orange juice. As I say, it's kind of concentrated life. It really gets heavy, right? It gets intense really fast. And it's like we're under the microscope. You have psychological impacts. And and all this type of thing that happens in these scenarios. So I do recommend that you take a look at it. It is a great opportunity for social commentary, to deal with existential questions, kind of what it means to live, issues of fear, manipulation. So take a look at these movies and see how you would expand upon this idea. And let me know if this is helpful for you in the comment section, or if you have any other same scenario movies suggestions. I'd love to look into them. Thank you.